What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you a cracking story from r/best of Redditor updates. How about this for a title? Grandpa is punishing my dad. I have the power to stop it, but don't know if I actually want to. This was originally posted on June the 9th, 2024. I am a 21-year-old woman, and I lost my mum when I was 14. My dad remarried when I was 17. My stepmom has a daughter who is 15. She and dad had a boy who is 3, and now she just gave birth to a little girl. Anyway, I've worked since I was 16, so I have some money to buy stuff for me. When I turned 18, dad said I was now an adult and should start paying rent. It was, in quotes, only $500, a symbolic amount since he would still cover food and other essentials. I was mad and we fought, but in the end I accepted, and that was the arrangement until 7 months ago. Dad came to me saying I had 2 months to move out. Stepmom was pregnant and they would need my room for the baby, which is insane because they both have private offices. My stepmom doesn't even need one since she's a stay-at-home mum since the birth of my baby brother. Nonetheless, they told me I had to move. By the way, just an addendum, me and my stepmom get on fine. We don't fight or bicker. I don't think this was an evil stepmom moment, but who knows. Me and my stepsister are actually pretty close. I help her with homework and talk about her personal problems. I actually love her very much. So back to the story. I didn't know what to do. I'm going to college. I want to be a civil engineer and I work part-time. I don't have the means to live by myself. I called my aunts, asking if I could move in with her for the time being, until I figured something out. And I offered to pay rent and all. She was aghast at what dad was doing. She said I absolutely could live with her. No rent needed, but also said she was going to deal with my dad. The next day, Grandpa came to our house, and they talked privately. I could hear my dad's angry voice, but I couldn't understand anything that was being said. After a while, Grandpa came to my room and said I had 3 choices. The first was to continue living with my dad and stepmom like I was doing. Nothing would change, except I wouldn't pay rent anymore. The second was moving in with him and Grandma, or my aunts. And the third was to find a place of my own and he would pay the rent and costs for me. He said I didn't need to choose now. I could keep living with dad, and if I changed my mind, to just tell him. I was actually relieved that I could still live with dad and that this madness was over. But the following days and weeks, my dad and stepmom became very hostile towards me, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable being in my own home. Even my stepsister Cassie picked this up and asked me why they were angry at me. So I decided to move out, and I told Grandpa. He said he'd take care of everything. A few weeks later, he moved me into one of his rental units. The apartment is lovely. He bought me a fridge, stove, and other essential items. He gave me a check for $15,000, saying this money is to help me start living on my own, and that as long as I'm working or studying, I can live there rent-free for as long as I want. My dad and I have been pretty low contact since I moved out. He never came to visit me, or I to visit them. I miss them a lot, especially my stepsister, but I'm still hurt. 2 weeks ago, my stepmom gave birth. I visited them in the hospital. It was a little awkward, but nice seeing them and my baby sister. Anyway, a few days ago, my dad calls me, saying he misses me, the children miss me, and I should move back home. He apologized for asking me to move out, etc, etc. And I told him I'd think about it. Yesterday, I visited my aunts and was telling her what my dad said, and my cousin laughed a little and said, I'm sure he does. I asked what he meant, and that's when they told me a lot of, until now, unknown information. Basically, my dad's home is actually my grandpa's, as is my aunt's. Basically, the deal he made with me, he did with all his kids and some grandkids as well. He never wanted any of his family to have to worry about basic stuff like house, food, etc. When I called my aunt that time, she called Grandpa, who was furious with my dad, not only for kicking me out, but also for charging me rents. That day, he went to my dad's and tore him a new one and threatened to have him evicted. But now the petty part. You know that $15,000 Grandpa gave me? It's actually what I paid dad in rent all that time, and now he's making dad pay him back. Also, he's charging dad $1,200 for the rent lost in the apartment that I'm living in. Call me dumb or naive, but until now, I never realized my dad didn't make that much money. We lived in a great house, always went on vacations, and lived very comfortable lives, but I guess Grandpa has always been helping behind the scenes. Now my cousin thinks that dad is struggling, with 3 kids at home, a single income, and having to pay it back to Grandpa. So he says dad wants me back because he imagines that grandpa will stop punishing him if I'm back living with them. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm actually loving living on my own these past 6 months. But I do really miss them. I miss my siblings. I miss the life we had before all of this. But I don't know if moving back home is the right answer. And also, I'm hurt that the reason he wants me back is money. Honestly, I just wanted to vent. Okay, so that is it for the original post. Before we get into the update of this one, let's first of all have a look at some comments from people on Reddit left down below. Somebody said, and I completely agree with this, stay right where you are. You can miss them and love them from afar. Go be with your grandfather and your aunt's family. They seem like the real family. Also, try to go and see a therapist. I'd add on this as well, that you don't have to never see them. You can just go and visit them. But yeah, I agree with this comment. Don't move back in just to appease your dad and help him out financially when he's tried to ruin you. Also, if you want to just go and see your stepsister or your stepmom even and not see your dad, you can do that as well. You don't have to move back in, and you definitely shouldn't. OP replied to this saying that is the weird part, the fact that he doesn't want me, he wants the money. Because I know this, but also it's difficult to see my dad that way. These past 6 months, I wondered why he kicked me out, if I'd done something. Now I'm thinking, was it all about money? Somebody else commented, how about starting new traditions with your aunts and grandparents? They love you and want you around. And OP replied, yeah, they've been great. I visit them whenever possible. Grandma isn't in the best of health, but she even came to visit me on my birthday. I'm very lucky to have them and their support. And thanks for the kind words. Somebody else said, also, I have a feeling that your grandfather would be unconvinced to change the rent that your father is paying, even if you were to move back. He's charging your father to make a point, not to actually cover your expenses. Yeah, that is true. I think we can tell by the sheer amount of money that your grandfather has given out over the course of his life to not just his own children, but also their children as well, and not small amounts. Like, these are, you can live in apartment free amounts of money. It's pretty crazy what your grandfather's done, to be honest. But yeah, this clearly is not about the relatively small amount of money that he's asking your dad compared to what I imagine is his net worth. OP replied to that saying, it makes sense. I've been reading what people say and I'm more comfortable with staying where I am. I feel less guilty. Maybe I should talk with Grandpa about it to hear his side. I now realise I've been too sheltered from information I think I need. Alright then, let's get into the update. This was posted just a week later on June the 17th, 2024. I wanted to give you guys an update since you've all been so helpful and kind to me. I was so overwhelmed by the support you gave me. Thanks 1,000 times. Before, I'm just going to answer some questions people had. My aunt and grandpa are from my father's side of the family. My mum's side, unfortunately, I don't have too much contact with. My grandparents have passed away before mum. I have uncles and aunts I see once in a while, but they don't live close. I also have 2 other uncles from my father's side, who I'm close to, but not as near as my aunts. She was my rock when mum died. I consider her a second mum. My stepmum knew about the rent I was paying. It was implied that my stepsister would need to do the same when she turned 18. But I don't know if she knew that dad didn't own the house or the extent of how much grandpa has financially helped out dad. So on to the update. Monday, the day after my post, I called my dad and said I've decided to not move back in. I didn't mention anything that I was told, just that I was well settled here and moving back seemed like a step back. But I also said that I wanted to keep in contact with them. They could invite me for dinner whenever they wanted, and I also said I'd love for my stepsister and brother to be able to spend time with me here at home. That is perfect. That is literally exactly what I was saying. You don't have to move back in to spend time with them. Good solution, OP. He was disappointed, and I didn't feel any angriness in his tone at least, but he basically said we'll see, and left it at that. I was also disappointed. But then, Friday he called me, asking me if I wanted to have lunch on Sunday, which is today at the time of posting. I said I already had plans with Grandpa and Grandma. He asked me when I'd be free, so we've scheduled a dinner for Thursday. I haven't told any of this to my stepsister. We talk in text regularly. She also hasn't heard them talking about me, but she did say that her grandma, her mum's mum, is there to help with the baby and is being incredibly annoying. I laughed at that. I wanted to offer her to sleep over here, but I didn't want to get her excited just for dad to say no, so I'll try and talk with them on Thursday. Now the big update is I've just come back from visiting Grandpa and Grandma. We spent a lovely day together, but I also said I wanted to know everything that was going on. I wasn't a kid anymore and I felt like I'd been living in a lie. The most important things were the things my cousin and aunt told me last week, But there were a few more. Grandpa had been subsidizing quite often our basic needs, like school, healthcare, etc., because Dad hadn't 1 cent saved up, according to Grandpa. Also, my college fund was mainly contributed to by him and Mum before her passing. I guess that makes sense. I was also dumb to not realize this sooner. He also set up funds for my baby siblings and also one for my stepsister, because he didn't want her to feel excluded and not have the same opportunities as her siblings. Goodness me, this man, by the way, is an absolute legend. Look, clearly he has a lot of money, but there's one thing having a lot of money, there's another thing setting up funds for all of your relatives. Wow. By that I mean, there's one thing having a lot of money and keeping it to yourself, there's another spending it so selflessly on your family. He's just insane. This man is incredible, OP says. I love him so much, and yes, I'm very, very lucky. I've seen so many people commenting this, not in a derogatory way, but being very supportive and nice. I know I'm very privileged to have grandparents and family members who can afford and are willing to help me. I hope one day I can help others the way they're helping me. Anyways, I also expressed worries about my dad's financial situation, and he assured me that Dad is fine, more than fine. He'll have to be less frivolous with money for a while, but that he'd never let any of his kids or grandkids suffer or be in need of anything. As many of you said, he's trying to teach Dad a lesson that, quote, I should have taught him a long time ago. So I'll stay out of it. I don't think I'll tell Dad that I know all of this. I know many of you said to confront him, but I think it's for the best if he continues thinking that I'm oblivious. Lastly, we talked about why Dad kicked me out. He didn't have an answer either. I could see that he and Grandma were very hurt by what Dad did. He said he asked for an explanation, but got none. That's it for now. I'll continue trying to have a relationship with my siblings outside of my dad and stepmom. I also try to schedule some weekly dinner with them. I know what you guys said about my father is mostly true, but I need to at least try and have a relationship with him. If not for him, for my siblings and for me. But don't worry, I won't let him hurt me anymore. Okay, that is it for the post. Now, before we get into my thoughts on this entire thing, and let me just say, guys, I have some incredibly strong things I need to say about OP's dad here. First of all, let's have a look at one final comment. This user said, your grandfather is the GOAT. I wish I could have had someone like him in my life. I still think that your dad is trying to erase his last wife / your mum from his memory, as I've heard about such things all too often, although maybe not consciously. I'm not sure at this point if he is being honest. I hope things go well for you. Now that's an interesting point that I hadn't thought of. Maybe this commenter is right. Maybe your dad is consciously, subconsciously, whatever, trying to get rid of any sort of memory associated with his late wife, your late mum. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure if that's not giving him an easy out. Now, the more I think about it, guys, I'll be honest, I just do think that is letting your dad off far too lightly, OP. What is he doing? First of all, he is completely throwing back what his dad has given him into his dad's face, right? You get free accommodation, free help with, loads of other stuff, food, basic amenities, healthcare, etc. Your kids have a fund made for them as well. And then your dad is offering your children free housing as well as that. Yet you're not grateful for that. Instead, you're trying to make money off of that by charging your own kid rent for a property that you don't even pay for at all, isn't in your name, and that, you're living in for free. It's just so weird. So you're profiteering off of your dad's property at the expense of your kid. What are you doing? That is why I said earlier that I just have to say some comments about your dad, because just so weird. Now, maybe this last comment that I've read is what's actually going on, and he is just trying to get you out of his life. If so, then I also think that's his complete issue as well. It's not your fault that his wife died, is it? That your mum died. Surely at that point as well, you'd come together and if anything, form a stronger relationship, given that someone that you guys love so much, that was obviously an integral part of your life, has passed away. I don't know. I just don't think that can be right. I just think he is just a very, very, very weird person. But thankfully, your grandpa's come an absolute clutch. I mean, it's just literally dishing out cash to everyone. What's that meme? Is there a meme of just someone just doing that? Or just someone with the money gun? For those listening, I'm swiping my hand as if I'm throwing money over all of you, which I wish I was. Because if I had as much money as your grandpa OP. If I could be half as selfless as him, I think I'd be doing pretty well. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Moral of the story, I think, is just be more like grandpa. Don't you think? He doesn't even need the money, by the way. He's just teaching his son a lesson. It's just great stuff. Be more like him, I say. And I'll try and take my own advice, because he is just a wonderful, wonderful man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you on the next one.